Where's that smile? There it is. Is that it? Okay. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mosaic Podcast, where we invite people from all different walks of life to share their stories with you. And we invite you to be a listener, like a fly on the wall, able to peer into the lives of different people that you would never normally meet and see things that you've never seen before. And hopefully we get some changes of perspective going on. My name is Daniel Levin. I am the host of the podcast, and we are here today with Anna Laura Levin, energy balancer, energy alignment master, and Reiki professional. And oh my God, hi Anna, how are you today?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, if I was any better, it would be amazing. Tell me, let's before we jump in, let's just ask something really basic so we get a sense of knowing each other a little bit. When you were growing up, what was the thing you liked to do most?
Singing. I love singing and dancing in front of the mirror when nobody was looking. And I loved sports. Like I loved my bike, being out in nature and just moving my body.
Wow. And so with that, as you've grown up, have you maintained doing that stuff? Is that something that reflects you and you still do today?
Not today. I mean, certain parts of my life, certain stages of my life, yes, I have pursued a lot of those things. I feel like little by little with life demands and kids and, responsibilities, I think I'm in the back burner many times. So, which part of that is willingly and lovingly, I am okay with doing that. And I'm hoping to return to the things that really feed my soul later on in life. It's all temporary. Everything is temporary.
Wow. So really what's happened, if I get what you're saying, is a lot of the things that you used to love to do as a kid are things that you still love to do, but life has come in its way and you don't get to do what you love to do as much as you want. And you hope one day down the line, you'll be able to do that again. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do some of the things that I like, but I used to, before when I was single, for example, in my college years, I did pretty much all of the things that I love. Mm-hmm. I went hiking almost every week. I wrote my poetry. I would wake up to music. My alarm was never an alarm. It was music. I was always, even when I was studying, music was always a big part of my life. I lived in a house. My mom's house had a pool and a jacuzzi. I used them almost daily, and I love water. It's very healing for me. So that was, if I look back, that was like the golden era, when I was I danced 12 hours a week. I would go on my walks in nature under the rain, and I loved them. I would take our dog for like an hour, 2-hour walk, and just just walk under the rain in the summer. I did a lot of the things that really nourished my spirit.
So when you hear yourself say that now, where does that land in you? The fact that you're not doing those things now, how does that make you feel?
I have I have a knot in my stomach.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not, I have a lot of other things. Like I have the privilege of raising two beautiful human beings, and I think that's one of the greatest gifts and responsibilities that we can have as humans. I don't take it lightly, and I was also a teacher that came from that train of thought and that that perspective. I have a peaceful, sacred, great relationship with my husband. And
that would be me.
That's you. And so I don't want to, it's easy to get derailed. It's easy to see life in black and white. And the truth of the matter is that we go through different stages, and I have a lot of blessings right now. And so that's why I was saying, perhaps it's a matter of being more aware and see if I can include or incorporate some of those elements. And if it's not the time will come.
So for those people who feel like you feel, or have that same situation where somehow over the course of time, life has replaced the things that they love doing with new things that they do, which they've loved doing too. You know, my thing is when two core values come in opposition with each other, that's when tension happens. And so you have all these things that you love to do: music, walking in the rain, dancing, riding your bike, exercising, doing all of that. And then you have these other things that you love to do, which is raising your children and taking care of them and giving them the best possible life available. When those conflict, what would you say to people of how to make peace in the crossroads of that conflicting core value belief?
I think the immediate thought that or approach that I have is this surrendering to one or the other, and that's the initial thought. But here is a deeper thing that I've been challenging myself, and that's why I was saying to you, it's not so much black and white. I think if we dig deeper into it, perhaps there is no conflict. Perhaps we think in our head, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this that I used to love. And if we think about what that gave us, perhaps we're getting that value met in a different way, but we are stuck in the way that we used to do it. Does that make sense to you? Because everything is perspective. So
it sounds a little bit like a rationalization, but I understand that if it's real, and what a beautiful reality. But I think all too often what happens is we lose ourselves in our service to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I think, one of my favorite words is harmony, but if in reality, harmony is unattainable. So it's something that we strive for constantly. And when I, at least for myself, when I am able to face life from that place of just not black and white, but stages and what's in front of me, and how do I do this from my heart, and how do I also continue to seek the things that nourish me, and replenish me. That's what I think it's about.
So in your life now, would it be fair to say that the things that used to nourish you as a single person have changed to things that nourish you now as a mother, as a husband, as an adult? Is that, or do you, when you're really honest with yourself, do you have a place of yourself that feels like, when is it going to be time for me?
I feel like, yes, I do crave more solitude. Definitely. That's something that I had a lot of before, of course, before having children and family and all that. And yet, if I get really real with me, if I were to take away some of the elements that consume most of my time, I wouldn't want them gone. Mm-hmm. My father used to say, children have a way of entering your heart and never leaving. And it's true. Beautiful. It really is true. Even with Elisa, our stepdaughter, as time consuming as it is, it's like, no, I wouldn't want her not to be in my life. I'd rather complain, you know what I mean, and enjoy her, and at least that's real, than not have her in my life. And so it's a matter of getting really real. When we have those conflicting values, we have to really get real. Okay, if they were gone, you would be okay? You will be happier? No. Mm-hmm. The thing is to continue to strive for that harmony, for that balance, to have honest conversations, to be able to tell your husband, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do the dishes today. I'm just exhausted. Or, or I need an hour. Like yesterday was a great example. We spent a lot of time together as a family. And then my daughter, the teenage daughter, wanted to play guitar. And I was just like, I don't know why. I was just exhausted. And I said to her, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go lay down for a little bit, because then we were going to do something else in the evening. And I knew that I wanted to take some time to just vegetate, and just be with myself and relax. And I did that. So it's saying yes to those little moments. And then we did something together again. So it's not like we're never together. Everything is possible, but it's kind of like taking care of that harmony. you know.
So what would you say to people who, um, we live by schedules. When you want to meet somebody, we have to check our calendars first, and oftentimes we're booked out for weeks at a time, and everything is so scheduled and compartmentalized, and everything is so, this is the way it's going to be, and my day is planned. And what would you say to people who are scheduled like that and yet feel this urge to change their schedule, to adapt to, like in my book, The Mosaic, there is a character called the Traveler. And one of the things she talks about is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that everything in life has those three steps, the beginning, a middle, and an end. Well, we are end driven a lot of times. This is what I used to do that brought me this sense of peace. I used to exercise and dance and sing and listen to music, and I was alone and I did all this. And now I have this other thing in my life. What would you say to people is the way that you allowed yourself to learn to adapt? And I'm not saying you've done it totally, or you're not saying you've done it totally, but what would be one step they could take to learn to adapt to the reality of the life that they live right now?
Yes. Like I said, I think it takes courage and faith and a lot of self-love to be able to sit down with ourselves and say, okay, I hear you. You're not happy. Okay, why? And then really look at it and really be honest. Because like I said, if I were to say, oh, I want to be just like in my early 20s when I had all this time and I'm doing all these things. No, I wouldn't. I take great pride in having a family and taking care of my family, of being of service to my family. It's a big part of who, not only my identity, but is the place where I prefer to give my love in. And so why would I want that gone?
Yeah.
And so a lot of it has to do with praying and getting in touch with ourselves, with the most intimate part of ourselves, and being real with ourselves and honest. And then from that place, we can adjust things. We can, like I said, we can have conversations. We can, set boundaries.
So for the world at large that doesn't take the time to get to know themselves, so for the world at large that follows just the routine that they follow, and they get caught up in the rat wheel of running what they do, doing what they do all the time, and they're scared to look at themselves with that perspective. Sometimes it's easier just to complain about the things that we have that are unfulfilled, rather than looking at the things that fulfill us, and the fact that we're not willing to take a look at that. Like, if this was gone, would I be happy? And so what would you say to those people? What would be the first thing that you would ask people to do to get to know themselves, to look at themselves? And remember, it's under the context of, I'm scared to do that. I don't know that I want to do that, right? Because I don't know what I'll find in there, right? And how would you love them into that place?
The first thing that I would tell them would be, when you realize that you're doing it again, you're complaining again, just stop in that second and breathe. Just stop and breathe. As simple as that. We have to be able to interrupt the pattern, even if we don't feel self-love for ourselves, like self-love. If we don't feel enough compassion and love for ourselves at the moment, because maybe that's too much of a stretch. I understand that. Right? So I would just say, just pause, just interrupt the pattern and just breathe. That's all you have to do.
Cool.
And in that moment, perhaps answers will come. And if nothing comes, then that's okay. Then the next time you do it again, and then the next time you do it again. And then soon enough, you have the courage to ask a different question. Oh my gosh, I'm complaining about these kids, and I have to, have 3 kids with very different needs. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. Okay, hold on. Oh, I'm complaining again. Okay. And just sit with yourself. Allow yourself. First of all, I don't make myself wrong that much anymore. Like I said, I have a stepdaughter who has needs. Guess what? Sometimes we don't want to change, like things in the morning. We have to bathe her or whatever. And some other times it's like, oh my gosh, what a privilege, of course. And of course we want to do it because like, why wouldn't we? We love her. But I don't make myself wrong. I'm human, right? And so that's the first thing. It's just don't make yourself wrong. And you try to see life with a different lens.
So let's segue now a little bit. Everything that you seem to be talking about would seem to not only reside in our emotions, but in the energy that exists in our body and the resistance to doing the things that we do. How does that, would that show up as, how does that show up as the energy in our body and the release of accepting ourselves and loving ourselves and doing that? What does that do to the energy in our body? Because from what I understand, you align energy, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit of how those things place themselves in the body? Because
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. No. Yes. We are energy. What happens when we don't acknowledge ourselves? We get blocked. Our energy gets blocked, and so everything it's out of balance. And of course, we're gonna have issues living life fully because we're not in alignment with ourselves. What I personally do is I help people not only align themselves, but rid themselves and heal themselves from the emotional blocks that are preventing their energy from flowing correctly. So for example, if we have a certain trauma that has affected our stomach area or our throat area or our heart, then of course it's going to affect all the other energy centers that we have, and we're going to be out of balance. So we're living life from an out of balance place. Whereas when we are in alignment with who we are, and we do that by seeking that harmony that we were talking about, right? That is ever going. It's an ongoing search and desire. That's how our energy can flow better. And so when I am being a caregiver, I'm being a caregiver from a different place than I would be if I was all blocked, if my energy was blocked.
Totally.
And there's different patterns and different traumas and different experiences that block different energy centers. And of course, because we're not fragmented, all of them affect each other.
Yeah. So I love that. So in the mosaic, which is the work that I do, one of the things that it says to us through the story, this beautiful fable that it tells, is that things really are not like they seem. And so in the first segment of what we were talking about, of how we have these core values that come in battle with one another, where we have to make a choice, and it's a win-win-lose or lose-lose or win-win, right? And it's sort of hard. The second thing that you've just been talking about is the fact that what I hear when you say that is we're not alone. There are people that can help us and energy systems that can help us, that we don't have to figure it out all by ourselves. And so when someone comes to you for a healing, they can just, like, how does that work? Do they have to work hard to change something? Like, what happens when they come to you for an energy alignment?
It all varies. It all depends how open or closed their hearts are. Some people have gone through really traumatic events in their lives. Some people are even on medicine, and so that the healing journey sometimes is a little bit longer. Some people have been doing the work and they come to me, and I'm amazed at how clear their energy is. Sometimes they just need guidance to move forward, or little intuitive messages that come for them that support them where they're at in their journey. So it varies with the person, but what I can tell you is that everybody gets exactly what they need in order to heal themselves, in order to know themselves better, more intimately, and in order to move forward on their path where they're at. And that I am just so grateful for, because I not only want to help people, I want to give them practical information that they can apply every day to move forward, so they don't, so they can sustain themselves.
So let's rewind a little bit. So when someone comes to you for a session, I guess what I'm trying to get at, because it might be a little scary for someone to come for an energy alignment, that who knows what the heck that is. What do they
Mm-hmm.
physically have to do during the time that you're working on
Okay, so here it is. It's very simple, but it's not so simple.
them? Okay.
They have to relax and be open to receive. Part of the big, I wouldn't say problem because I don't like that word. Part of the challenge, there you go. Part of the challenge that we have, all of us have, because I haven't met one person that doesn't have this challenge, is that we are right there when somebody needs us, and we have an issue receiving, not taking, because
Mm-hmm.
there's plenty of takers. I'm talking about purely receiving. The ability to receive, it's in proportion to the amount of healing that a person can get. That doesn't mean that miracles don't happen. Miracles happen all the time. And when it's for our best and highest good, we're just gonna get, and we get instantly healed. But this is what gets in the way. So we can recreate the belief or the trauma or the perspective that we had, and so they have to do nothing but receive. That's what they have to do.
And so really that carries on after the healing as well, if I'm understanding, because
Yeah.
it's sort of like the trash man in my book. He comes every day, every week on the same day, and takes all the trash. But then we recreate the trash, and he comes every day the same, right?
Yes.
Every week the same day, and takes it again. So in a healing process, what I was really thinking you were going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they don't have to do anything. They just have to. It's not their work that's happening at this point. The only work they have is to let go
Yes.
of the fact that they think they have to do something there, and to allow
Exactly.
once the healing enters them, to allow that healing to cleanse them and to not recreate the same blockages that they created. So I understand that you have different programs or packages. I hate to say that word because it's not really a package. But for those people who want to continue to recreate it, there's a way for you to just continue to go in and go in and go in and go in. But if they could just let
Mm-hmm.
go of it, you wouldn't have to come back that many times, right?
Yes, and you know what's interesting, as you were talking, it just comes to mind that we as a society, we're so used to doing, like what's rewarded is to do, and the work that I do is in being,
Mm-hmm.
in just being. But we don't, and I can tell you, this has been my own path. We don't acknowledge it, and we don't what do you call it, value it. We don't value just being, but that's what we need to heal. We need to just
Yeah.
be able to be in the moment, be you, just breathe, feel yourself, and connect to yourself, and connect to the divine that wants to heal you at any time.
It's interesting because that goes a lot with what I talk about in the Mosaic as well, because the story is a beautiful, charming story. But a lot of the things that have really touched me is not the words of the story or the story itself. It's the spaces between the words of the story, that the quiet, that when I sit with that space, things grow in me. It's like when there's emptiness in there, new things can grow. And it sounds like the process that you do with people is you remove blockages that are there, and that allows things to grow within them. Instead of blockages, there's free space to roam. But
Yes.
when we want to do stuff, we just keep wanting to plant back something in those places. But the peace comes, it sounds like, from what you're saying, from just being able to be in that space and
Mm-hmm.
listen to what that space says, and allow that space to over time just continue to heal us.
Yes, it's a, in a simpler way to say it, is almost like integrating all of who we are, because we live in our heads. We have lived in our heads for so long, and we're not integrated with our hearts or even our senses. I find a lot of people are closed up in their hearts, and so how can we live fully and purposefully if we are out of touch with with the wisdom of our hearts and the power of our hearts and our senses, right? We're sensory beings, and even intuition, it's a big part of that. It's learning to integrate all of who we are, our emotions, our mental body, our spiritual body. And I know that sounds very woo stuff, but it's becoming more and more mainstream, and it's very exciting because we are not one or the other. We are all of it. And so can you imagine when we create from that place of complete integration of who we are? To me, that's what excites me.
Yeah.
That's really an exciting place.
One of the ways that I talk about it with Mosaic, which is interesting, and I'm just giving different perspectives so that people can, is when we look at a situation, we see the situation the way we see the situation. But that's from one point of the circle. Every point around the circle has a different way of viewing the situation. And so in order for people to understand things that they don't understand, they have to understand that there's some things they don't understand. If that's not too confusing.
Yes.
Because when you start talking about an ethereal body and a spiritual body and a physical body and a mental body, those are concepts for most people that may be out of their realm of possibility. But once we understand,
but look, it's so simple. If we think about it, right? We think about it. We can think about something that happened. We're using our head. If I tell me the last time that you laughed, now you're feeling something. So it's a matter also of being aware. It's not that weird. It's a matter of being aware of, it's just a different name. But that's what I'm talking about in the integration. We need to bridge those gaps. I really feel it in my soul. We need to bridge those gaps because that's truly what's going to give us the meaningful lives that we are all looking for. We're all looking for that. And yet, like you say, we need to dare ourselves and have the courage to look at different perspectives. And if I'm looking at something from one side, what would it look like from the other? I don't have to adopt that view, or I don't have to believe it, but let me see, and let's see what happens, right? So
in winding down, I like to ask a few questions in a series just to close up the podcast. And this has been, I want to thank you so much for being on this and doing this with me. This podcast is really for people who don't have a voice, who feel like their voice gets lost in the voice of the masses around them, who are screaming and yelling, and there's a softer voice or a quieter voice, or they have a vibration, not a voice at all. So if you had the opportunity right now to say one thing to the world around you, and to say it with love, without anger, and know that the people that would receive it without judgment, what's one thing that you would say to the world right now that you'd like the world to know?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just be kind. Be kind. Everybody's different. Being kind means that if I look at you and you look different from me, it's okay. I don't have to be friends with you. I don't have to like it. I don't have to live with you or date you or anything. Just be kind. Just be kind.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. And the final question, and then after this, we'll just ask you to tell people how they can get in touch with you or what. So when you were a kid, or even growing up now, and you look at the world that we live in, is this the world you always dreamed that you would hand over to your children and that they would have to hand over to their children?
No, not at all. Not at all. Since I was a kid, I've always been very sad at looking at the how bad some things in the world are. There's a lot of goodness too, but it just hurts me so deeply. That's why I talk about kindness. That's what the world needs, is a kindness revolution. I used to say it when I was a teacher. to my students. That's what I saw. I would just observe society, or at least a little portion of society, whether it was in my country, my original country, or here in the US, or even in Europe. And it just hurts me. It hurts me the way we treat Mother Earth. It hurts me the way we treat each other. And that's how I became more aware of that's what we need. We need a kindness revolution. I used to have signs, love and peace in my classroom. I did whatever I could to promote that, but that this is not the world that I want to hand over to my children. And having said that, I think it's all of our responsibility, not just, if you are the parent or not, but it is as adults being responsible for teaching all children and any other adults to be an example of what is it that we want to see this world be. So yes, I don't know if I answer your question.
Yeah,
but.
no, totally. And so the follow-up that I normally ask, which I think you already answered, is if this isn't the world that you'd like to hand over to your kids, what's the one thing that you would want to change about the world? And I think you mentioned kindness. And so because you did that, what would you ask people to do as the first step in being kind? Because a kindness revolution is a revolution, right? We're far away from that right now. So for those people who are listening to say, oh boy, I love that, but like, how would I even get started in that? What would I do? What would you recommend?
Well, okay. So speaking of baby steps, just apply the rule that if you don't have something nice to say, just don't say it. Ask yourself, am I contributing with value, or am I adding to the fire? Be more intentional. We're very reactionary. Is that a word?
Yeah,
we
totally.
we just react. Oh, I don't like this, the government, and I don't, that's just a react. Let's just pause. We have a head for a reason. Just pause and ask yourself, am I contributing to the fire, or am I contributing with value and moving forward and uniting us instead of dividing us? It's that simple. It's just awareness.
Fabulous. So if people want to get in touch with you and if they want to know how to work with you or do something with you or get an energy alignment, for instance, and if they felt not only in the power of your words, but in the quiet behind you and in the vibration of who you are and the feeling of who you are, how would people best get in touch with you, and how would you like them to reach you?
The best way would be you can go to my website, annalauralevin.com, or you can reach me. I'm on social media with the same name, Ana Laura Levin, on Facebook and Instagram, or you can just annalauralevin@gmail.com. Everything is the same name for a reason. It's easy. So
great. And that would be ANALAURALEVIN.com.
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we'll post that down beneath under the show notes. And Ana, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to invite those of you who feel drawn to this beautiful energy that Ana speaks of and exhibits to please contact her, and sooner than later. The world does need a kindness revolution, and what a beautiful thing to get going. And in order to be kind to others, I always believe, like in the Mosaics taught me, the first person we have to be kind to is ourselves. So if you're looking for a way to release some of the blocks that keep us from going there and to feel your energy moving through your body effortlessly, give her a call, email her, go to her website, see what's going on, and sign up. So thank you so much for being on the show. Is there one last thing? I feel you have one last thing you want to say. Is there one last thing you want to say?
No, it's a pleasure. And thank you for being part of my mosaic.
Absolutely. My honor. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll be back again next week. Okay. So keep on keeping on and realize that life is one connection away from where you are. So open up whenever a door opens, walk through. And this door is opened up now with Ana. I really recommend you walk through. Continue doing what you continue doing. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.